Hey Sunshines, welcome back to Rina Loves Reading, a place dedicated to the books we're adding to our TBRs, the ones we're finally getting off, and the ones we are currently reading. So, today we are looking at the books I plan to be reading this week. If that interests you, let me know what you are reading down below, and like and subscribe. So let's get into it. So, the first book that we will be reading, we are handling The Well of Ascension. So this is the second book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. Yes, I bought the leather bounds without finishing the series. I know I'm ridiculous. And yes, I know Doomslug up there is upside down. So this is basically the second book in the Mistborn series. And the Mistborn series follows a girl who can use metal to do some fantastical elements. I love Brandon Sanderson as an author. It was one of the authors that I got back into when I started reading in college after high school, and just as coping skills. My best friend at the time, I was really depressed throughout college, and my best friend at the time was very worried about me, and before I got help through therapy and all of that, handed me Warbreaker and Mistborn to read because Brandon Sanderson, chunky fantasy books, thinking it would take me some time to read. So I read those two books, loved them in college. I never actually finished the Mistborn series, but I did invest in the leather bounds for Mistborn as they've come out, the signed editions with the exclusive art in the cover. I think Brandon Sanderson, of all of the special editions I own, I love his leather bounds the best, because A, they're quality, B, I know they go to a small business with his Dragonsteel. Well, if you've seen his most recent Kickstarter, I don't think if he qualifies as a small business anymore because, $30 million Kickstarter, for 4 books that he's not really disclosing much information for. Well, he is reading the first 5 chapters and releasing the names of the books, but I am going into that Kickstarter next year with no information. I am trying to avoid all spoilers for it, so I'm literally not going into this blind. I'm paying the $200 for the exclusive editions of the 4 secret projects and reading them as I go. That's how much I love Brandon Sanderson and his stories. I just need to finish Mistborn. I own a lot of his work. I just need to hunker down and read it. And with Mistborn, they're chunky. This is 800 pages. Nothing like Stormlight by him, but still a chunker. I have the audiobook, so I'm probably going to breeze through this fairly quickly. And then hopefully I can get into book 3 next week. Because I know the Final Metal, which is the 7th book in the series, so it's subdivided the Mistborn series into 3 books at the beginning, and then it time jumps into later, and then he has another set of books coming out, I think, that I'm not sure where they place in the Cosmere, but that is happening. So I want to get caught up on Mistborn before that final book comes out. The next book I talked about last week, I didn't get to it. It's one of my Disney books, so this is Love. I've already marked it off as read by accident, so I just want to finish it. This is basically a Cinderella retelling. What I am finding with these books especially is if I liked the Disney movie, then I'm enjoying it. My favorite so far was Part of Your World, which I'll talk about in a later video that I'm coming out with later this week, where I have full thoughts, full spoiler reviews on them. But with the books that I am not emotionally as invested in with the movies, they're harder to read. The audiobook on this also has a British accent, so I can't listen to it at my usual speed, which is hard for me because I'm I want to listen to this quicker. I want to get through you, but I can't because I can't understand the accent, especially when I'm driving. The next book that I'm reading, I only own digitally. So I'm reading Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I read the first one a couple of years ago, I think. And it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm in a romance mode to some extent that I just want to finish this trilogy. I own all three that were on the TBR. I just need to get them done. So I'm going to focus on that as my Kindle book for this week. The other books, I've got 3 more books that I would like to get through this week. So another one I talked about last week that I didn't end up getting to it. I started reading it, but I was not in a headspace to be able to understand and follow the logic in this book. It's kind of one of those that you have to be in the mood to be able to understand the philosophical themes in it, I'm finding. So it's Kafka on the Shore, and this basically follows a 15-year-old boy who's run away to prevent bad things from happening in his life that he saw from happening. There are talking cats. We're going to need time to process that, and in the mindset of willing to process that. I was not in that headspace last week, so I also want to get that done. The next book is an Outcrate edition that I have. I also have this digitally. I actually like the Outcrate cover a lot better than the digital and the regular edition because it's more of that cool tone, green tone vibe compared to where the normal cover, like the shirt is red, it's a lot more red toned. But I'm going to be reading this Poison Heart, and basically this is one where it's kind of like a fairy tale retelling where this woman can basically grow anything, and the complexities of that and how that follows and how that is impacted once her aunt dies. So this author wrote Cinderella is Dead. I enjoyed that book a lot, and I want to continue on with her next book to see if she's going to be an author kind of like Brandon Sanderson, where I enjoy her books a lot and I'm just going to get them all because I really enjoyed the themes of it, or not. The final book on my TBR for this week is one that I have owned for a ridiculous amount of time. I think this is one of those that I have owned years and not read. So it is The Forgotten Book. So I read the first book in this series, Lost in a Good Book, years ago at this point. And from what I remember, that book follows a girl as she begins to be able to jump into books and the stories that she is impacting in those books. And I think this is a continuation of that series. The back says, basically, I closed my eyes for a moment and leaned my head against the wall. What on earth was going on? I was 16 years old, almost an adult. I was a sensible person, for heaven's sake. Was I seriously sitting here with an antique book wondering whether there was really such a thing as magic? So I want to get this off my Kindle library. I also found it on sale for $5, so that is why I have also it in hardcover. So with that, let me know what you're reading, and let me know if there's any thoughts on the whole Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter debacle that he had this week or in the last month, where he tricked the entire internet and trolled us all to think he was retiring and then just dropped 4 books that he COVID stress wrote. How this man COVID stress writes, I don't know. My pandemic was followed by trying to keep people sane throughout it and then losing my own mind. But okay. Let me know if anyone else down below is trying to also keep the secret projects a mystery, because all of my friends are following along and they're like, but we want to talk with you. We're buying the Kickstarter too. How are you trying to keep this a secret? And why are you doing that to yourself for over a year? Am I crazy for doing that? Probably. Is it going to be annoying for the next year? Yup. Anyway, have a good day. I'll talk to you in the next video.